In 2016, the 16-year-old daughter of Russian MMA icon Fedor Emelianenko was brutally attacked on the streets of Moscow and hospitalized. The rumor was that the leader of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, orchestrated the assault. Despite being friendly with many MMA fighters, Kadyrov is sanctioned by numerous countries around the world, behind the disappearance and torture of numerous journalists, and has a ruthless streak against anyone who opposes him. Just days before the attack on Fedor's daughter, Kadyrov held a televised MMA event featuring kids under the age of 10, which Fedor spoke out against. Fedor's backlash caused a chasm in Russia. Russian politicians, UFC fighters, and everyone in between were taking sides, and this is the story. Ramzan Kadyrov has been the head of the Chechen Republic since 2007. He's friends with numerous Russian combat sports athletes from Hamza Chimaev, Magomed Ankalaev, Artur Beterbiev, and more. Kadyrov is often seen showering them with gifts, inviting them to meet his family and celebrating their victories. He's even been octagon-side for numerous UFC events. But this isn't the Russian equivalent of Donald Trump attending the UFC. There is a lot more to Ramzan Kadyrov than meets the eye. We've mentioned it numerous times on this channel now, but he's supported the honor killings of multiple Chechen women for supposed adultery, led the purge of homosexual men in Chechnya, and numerous other atrocities. He's even threatened to nuke the entire world if Russia should ever fall.
Do you regard the United States as an enemy of your country?
Америка не такая сильное государство, чтобы мы рассматривали его как врага России. У нас сильное государство, ядерная держава. Если даже наше государство полностью разрушит, автоматически наши ядерные ракеты полетят там. И весь мир мы перевернем, знаешь, рака поставим.
Perhaps due to his hyper-masculine nature, he's always been a fan of mixed martial arts. He owns a large MMA promotion in Russia, trains at least to some degree, and always champions the top fighters from Chechnya and Dagestan in particular. Just see his reaction when Chimaev recently subbed Robert Whittaker. But in 2016, Kadyrov hosted an event that caught the attention of the entire MMA world, and not in a good way. It was the day before his 40th birthday, and perhaps as some estranged gift to himself, Kadyrov held an MMA event featuring children and a lot of professionals any fan would recognize today. Fighting and victorious that night was Magomed Ankalaev, UFC bantamweight Said Nurmagomedov, and the World Series of Fighting champion Magomed Bibulatov. But the weirdest thing was, on that very same evening, Kadyrov's 3 sons, who were aged between 8 and 12, all fought against other kids. And despite them being so young, they all kind of knew how to fight.
И в такой жуткий размен пускаются мальчики. Да, беспорядочные, наносят удары друг другу.
His eldest son, Ahmed, even won by TKO, and this unprecedented spectacle was all broadcasted on live free-to-watch TV in Russia. And the kids who had to fight against Kadyrov's children looked utterly petrified to be there. It goes without saying, Kadyrov's event caused a lot of controversy. But when it comes to dealing with a ruler so ruthless, very few in Russia condemned the show. But perhaps the first person to do so was Russian mixed martial arts legend Fedor Emelianenko. In a now-deleted Instagram post, Fedor pointed out that kids under the age of 12 aren't allowed to even attend MMA fights in Russia. Yet, Kadyrov had 8-year-olds beating each other up in front of jeering adults, and was outraged that the head of Chechnya was behind it. Although Fedor isn't Chechnyan and doesn't have any ties to the Caucasus region of Russia, to speak out publicly against Kadyrov isn't something people do, because usually things won't end well for you if you do.
Я найду тебя, да, и мы посмотрим, да, кто из нас шайтан. Ты самому тебе как, да, не стыдно, как ты будешь смотреть в зеркало, да. Ты ночами не будешь спать, да, будешь сейчас завещание делать, если я умру, помоги ты моей семье, да.
Я очень много шайтанов там.
And while retaliation would soon come for Fedor, this controversy went far wider than just MMA. Vladimir Putin's head of press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, said the fact a child was knocked out on television warrants the relevant authorities to take a look and see if this event was all above board. But whether through fear or their own beliefs, the vast majority of Chechen officials defended the event. They claimed that Fedor should look at the situation from a man's point of view, accused him of using performance-enhancing drugs, and that fighting was part of any Chechen child's upbringing. And then there were the MMA fighters. Those present, of course, backed Kadyrov, but even Khabib Nurmagomedov, who usually has a strong moral compass, sided with Kadyrov. He said that child sports and MMA in Chechnya is a positive thing, and that it's far better than them sitting indoors watching mind-numbing television all day. But the most interesting part is that former UFC fighter Abdul Karim Edilov accused Fedor of being envious of the attention. In response, fellow UFC fighter Nikita Krylov, who backed Fedor, actually challenged Edilov to a fight in the octagon to settle their differences. In truth, this entire debacle was fueled by racial undertones in Russia that go back centuries. Chechnya and Dagestan are part of the Caucasus region of Russia, which historically have fought against the might of Slavic Russia, which makes up the majority of the country. So anyone with ties to the mountainous parts of Caucasus Russia sided with Kadyrov, while the Slavic Russians were more inclined to favor Fedor.
A lot of people immediately lashed out against Fedor, and that obviously led to a whole other series of events afterwards. But it was very disappointing to see immediately the schism this created in the Russian MMA community, because you could immediately see it devolving to an argument between the North Caucasus, being Dagestan, Chechnya, and Muslim Russians, against the Orthodox Slavic Russians that back Fedor.
And although that fight between Krylov and Edilov never came to fruition, Edilov ended up trading in his MMA career in order to become Kadyrov's vice president of Chechnya. That was until late November in 2023 when he resigned, and just a month later was found dead under mysterious circumstances, with many Russian outlets speculating that Kadyrov was behind it. It just goes to show that being on the wrong side of Kadyrov can have its repercussions, which Fedor found out all too well just a few days after his public outrage at Kadyrov's MMA event. News hit Russian outlets that Fedor Emelianenko's then 16-year-old daughter Maria was attacked in the streets of Moscow on her way home from school. She was allegedly jump-kicked in the chest and hospitalized. Given the circumstances, the obvious assumption was that Kadyrov was behind the assault. However, Kadyrov himself actually spoke out against the attack, essentially saying anyone who raises his hand to a woman and a child at that can't consider themselves to be a man. But according to the Moscow Times, the incident occurred very close to the president's hotel in Moscow, which is rumored to be the unofficial headquarters of Kadyrov's men in the Russian capital. And for all of Kadyrov's many controversies, attacking the unarmed child of a Russian MMA legend does, strangely enough, seem out of character. Most people believe it was a single deranged follower of Kadyrov who felt it was the right thing to do, or perhaps to gain favor with the Chechen leader.
One of Kadyrov's crazed supporters wanted to do good for his leader, and went on his own sort of mission to find Fedor's daughter and assault her.
Either way, Fedor remained completely silent on the matter, likely fearing what else may come his family's way. After all, Kadyrov went on record to say that Fedor likely realized his mistake, a stark warning that whether it was Kadyrov directing the attack or not, opposing him in Russia isn't a wise choice. It just goes to show that it doesn't matter who you are in the MMA world, when people like Ramzan Kadyrov are involved, you sit down and shut up. It's likely why guys like Hamza Chimaev, Islam Makhachev, and Khabib, who have all received criticism from MMA fans and media for being friendly Kadyrov, have done so.